Sorry. Hi guys. Welcome to Land Down Under Hangouts seasonal smart read. This season we have read. Oh, you can't really see it. It's too bright. I'm sorry. But it's the time that I got drunk and saved a demon. I'm going to start. I quite enjoyed it once I got into it. When I first started reading it, I wasn't sure if I was going to like it. But once I sort of got into it, like I've been reading a lot of these trash romance novels, and it was just really fun. Really enjoyed it. Like, it was a nice, quick, fun read. It was silly. It had serious parts. Like, I didn't mind. Like, none of the characters were like abhorrent, which you can often get in some of these romance novels. Either the, male main character or female main character will have some sort of like quality that you're like, you are the worst person existing in this realm and I want you to die a fiery death. And it was just nice that neither of them had that.
The bar is low.
Romance novel, it's a low bar. Super low. Kim, what did you think?
I concur. It was a lot of fun, nice, easy read. Same thing. There weren't any characters that I hated at all. Well, except for the one you're supposed to. Yeah, it was just a nice, relaxing, fun read that didn't take much brain power. It was just enjoyable.
Mel.
I'll put the drink back down.
Right.
It's all good. Definitely fun read. Is exactly what it was back to VF days for me, like super light and easy to read, good sexy times, not much to nitpick. I mean, obviously it's a very short story, so I think that there was a lot of space to do more if she wanted to, but she wanted to tell a light story and I enjoyed it for being what it was.
Yeah, it was exactly what was on the box. It was a smutty little read, and that's what we wanted for it.
Yeah. Smutty read with fantasy adventure. Woo.
Elizabeth.
Absolutely ridiculous. I loved it. It was great travel reading. Caveat, hoping no one was looking over my shoulder. I was surprised at the D&D influences in there a little bit, stronger than I was expecting. But yeah, just fun.
Kirsten.
I'm just gonna sound the same as everybody else. Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was silly. It was quite funny in a lot of places, which was nice because quite often these like romancy type ones are kind of take themselves a bit too seriously, whereas this one was just, I really enjoyed the main character's kind of sense of humor. But yeah, quick, fun, easy read.
I feel like the title sort of gave away that she wasn't going to take herself too seriously.
Yeah. I really enjoyed her though. Like I thought she was quite a likable main character, and quite often stuff she said, I was like, yeah, right. Like,
yeah, I often find with these sorts of books, the main character becomes one of a few little tropes, whereas they're either super clumsy and that's their only trope.
Mm-hmm.
They've got some sort of trauma background and that is their only trope, so they're like frightened of the world, or they have like this huge chip on their shoulder and they need to like show everyone that they're the boss. And that's a lot of romance novels. They're one of those three types of female main characters, and it was nice that while she had tropes, she wasn't a singular trope. Like there were tropes about her character, but she wasn't just a singular trope character.
I like that she was competent, but she wasn't just like, oh, but I'm the only competent one around sort of thing.
Yes.
And also not like ridiculously competent at everything.
Yes.
Like, because you had the was it Ursula?
Asha?
Ursha? Something like that.
That's how it was said in
Usha.
in the
Usha.
in the audiobook.
Yeah.
Right,
Mm.
Usha. She had some fantastic competency going on as well. So it's not like it was just the main character who was competent. So that was nice too.
Can't sit on me. Stop it.
Oh, I see someone's got their dolphin.
Okay, stand up. If you want me to do your hair, you need to stand up. Sorry for the interruption, folks.
I did like the fact that the cinnamon wort was the cure. I thought that
Yeah.
was fun.
That was fun. I liked that. I liked that she was a spice farmer and like she accidentally found out that cinnamon cured the demons, and like I really enjoyed that all of her siblings' names were all spices as well.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yes.
Chili and cumin. I'm just like, it's adorable.
What was the sister
help
that
it.
disappeared? What was that sister's name?
Cherry?
Cherry. Because I remember thinking it's not a spice, but it's kind of adjacent. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Spice
I like
adjacent. See, this is how you get one of your children killed. You stop using the same
it.
Oh,
Hey,
no,
baby.
me.
naming convention.
Oh dear. I actually would have been quite happy if the story had just been like sort of around the spice trade and that, like I don't get me wrong, I thoroughly enjoyed the fantasy like adventure story hero quest element of it as well. That was fine, but I would have been just as happy to have a cozy read about the spice farm too.
Just before we go too far forward, Karina, what did you think overall about the book now that you've finished it?
I haven't quite finished. I decided I don't need to read the entirety of the final scene.
Yeah, I think you get the gist of it.
Yeah, you got the idea.
That was pornographic.
The spicy scenes were very spicy.
They were spicy.
Yeah.
Like there were no euphemisms here.
I like that. I hate when they use stupid euphemisms.
Actually,
I'm
we were
like-
discussing that earlier today. We were talking about when they use stupid euphemisms, when they say stupid things like he coated my womb.
Oh,
Oh, you had to go for that one, didn't you?
Stuck in there forever.
Finite amount of
Can't
brain
forget
space
that
in
one.
That's Cressley Cole. It's in there forever.
Oh.
Or when they just avoid using any language for it whatsoever.
He plunged
He
into
plunged into my depths and like flowery shit like that. That annoys me just as
Yeah.
so yes, this was like far at the other end of that, but I did also enjoy the adventure story that was in there as well.
Yeah.
There was a nice amount of world building and the characters were fun. I enjoyed it. 4 stars.
Yes, I did give it 4 stars actually.
That's what I'm
I didn't star rate it, but that's probably what I would give it because I felt like it was more than a 3.
Yeah, it did what it set out to do without, leaving threads untied. She didn't do that thing where they start something and then just stop because the book's too short. She just kept it simple.
And honestly, in case anybody is watching this at an early stage, I'd like to say you can just read the first one and stop there.
Yeah.
You don't have to read the whole series if you don't want to.
Yeah, this like while she could have made this a much bigger story and put in a lot more information and like put in a lot more of the story of the adventure and what the people were doing, I feel like the world that we got was great. Like, and
yes,
why
some are a
stars,
little overly verbose, I feel like, Brandon Sanderson.
but like
I
I
love him.
was
I'm not
happy
gonna-
with what I got for what I was expecting.
Yeah.
It's like
Actually,
she did it well, like the whole leech thing. Like she could have gone so much more into it, but she gave us the basics. She didn't like leave threads untied. She just said this is what it is, and didn't complicate it. It's like I could have heard more about that, but she didn't leave anything wanting. Like I'm not like, oh, I wish I knew more about the leech, but I don't really care that I don't.
no, she was just bad. That's fine. Had to go.
Yeah, that's bad. They destroyed her. All good. Done.
Speaking of, what were the D&D elements like? Do you think that the author had definitely played D&D, or is it more of a general thing that got in there?
It was. I mean, the Lich was kind of a big flag for me. Like, I get that we've had Harry Potter and everything, but like a Lich with a phylactery says D&D to me.
Yep.
A lich with a phylactery and a hero party that has, what is
Yes.
obviously a barbarian and some sort of wizard or a mage. Like, there's like from the descriptors, I was like, yeah, that's definitely like a D&D sounding adventure party. Like,
Yep, the hero party. They're literally called the hero party.
You have a descriptor of, like there was the mage that was holding up the shield, and there was or the wizard, or however you wanted to sort of describe that magic user. But like there was that sort of like the descriptors that they gave definitely gave vibes of D&D party.
Yep.
I mean, I
think
feel like
because-
Naomi covered it pretty well.
Right?
I think I probably was distracted from thinking of it that way because we started so solidly as romance with two characters. I wasn't really thinking of it as a party until like later when they did gather the rest of the group up. So I was not really in that mindset.
Because, I mean, when they sort of left at the beginning, you were like, oh yeah, they're just two people that are leaving to be the hero party, and you don't really hear about them. And until you see them at the end, you don't really think about them being in that structured party, because you don't sort of, I assume what happens is when they get to that end, that's when they get their hero powers and they become the paladin or the barbarian or the whatever sort of character that the lich is giving them powers for.
And also the characterization of the dragons
Yes.
as well.
Yep. Different elements.
Yes. And just like generally like having like orcs and like
Yeah, all the different
werewolves
types
and,
of
like, all different types of monsters or demons, as she called them in this book, kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah, like the what's the snake
Lamia?
one? Lamia, the
Yeah.
Lamia, and the werewolves and all the orcs.
I'm very curious, actually. Who's planning to read the next book?
I might.
I might.
I'm curious. When you read the description, it's not actually very clear who's going to feature. It's only really by guessing based on the cover that I sort of was like, okay, I think. So I thought that was interesting that they've gone for that angle. So I was wondering if anybody else had thought the same thing as I did, that it was.
I didn't get around to looking up the next one because I thought it might tell you who the characters were.
The way it's written, it's like in first person, so you don't even know who it is. It's going to be the female, let alone the.
I looked it up on Goodreads. I know who it is.
Did you look at the reviews? Because I didn't think it was in the description.
Yeah, I looked at the
In the
reviews.
description.
Right.
Because I just had a look.
It's in the description.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Oh, look, there's a little 1.5 Christmas book as well in there.
Yeah. I'm probably going to read on, but I'm not like in a hurry. I'm sort of like this will fit nicely when I want to break with something light and easy to read.
Yes.
One thing that did put me off initially, very briefly, was the author did not seem to understand the gendered spelling of blonde.
There was a couple of little things like that. At one point when I was reading it on the plane, I nearly you were like 2 rows back from me on the plane, Elizabeth, and I was tempted to lean back and say to you, this book needed you to be the editor because the editor did a bad job.
I think that's partly why I stopped physically reading it and ended up paying like $2 extra or whatever it was to get the audiobook and started
that was
listening.
an accident.
Yeah, but I mean, I started listening to it and much more enjoyed listening to it. And obviously things like misspelling of the word blonde, you don't really notice when you're listening to it.
No.
And it's a lot easier to just let it run over you, kind of thing, and sort of ignore.
Well, you can't, you don't notice it.
Yeah, you don't notice it as much if it's being spoken to you as you would reading it.
I noticed a few spelling errors. There was also the wrong two, like TOO when they meant TO, and I was like,
Yeah.
Again, listening to it, so I didn't really don't notice those.
somebody
sorts of
should have
things,
picked up
so-
on that. There's
I
another
just
thing
get
early on
things
as
like
well.
that.
I can't remember.
I get that like quite. It's not an uncommon thing for me to find something like that in a book, so I just didn't care. The blonde one I've learned to just ignore anyway because it's just like not that big of a deal to me. But like little things like a
Blasphemy.
TO, sorry, blasphemy. Yes, I know. I just don't care. Gendered words. But like another book I was reading today had a little error in it, and I was just like, eh. So I think it just didn't bother me because I'm just used to shrugging it off. But I'm also not an editor, so.
I find it takes me out of it makes me focus on the writing instead of the story, I guess, and like it's almost a little bit jarring. Like not so much that it really impacted the enjoyment that much, but it's enough for me to go, that's annoying.
I think it depends on how common it is for me, like how early and how often it happens. If it's not too often, I'm fine. If it's not too early and not too much, I'm fine. It's just like, but I've read some fan fiction where you're just like, oh, I can't do all this.
Yeah, I have DNF fan fiction because of it, and usually I'm pretty forgiving with fan fiction because I'm like, well,
Yeah.
you're not a professional writer, and you probably haven't got anybody proofreading this.
I
I'm
returned.
usually lenient, but some of them are so bad that I'm like, okay, I can't anymore.
I bought a Kindle Thai book, which was a translation of a Thai book that was truly atrocious, and I'd spent money on it, and I was like, you know what? I'm returning this because this is terrible.
Yeah, but it's like for me it is like Kirsten, it kicks my editing brain in and then I'm suddenly not in the story anymore. And this was an early error, so it kind of
Yeah.
tripped me up and made me go, what's this going to be like? Is this going to be worth reading? But fortunately it wasn't too often, as you said, Mel. And so I was able to enjoy the story anyway.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing, right? It's if it's early and if it's often, like those things are the things that really play.
Yeah, whereas this one, it was early, but it was not often.
Yeah. All right. I have to raise it. Insta love.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of almost expect it in these kind of books, don't you?
I actually think she did a really good job of getting around it, like by having it, but also not having it. By not mentioning it till so far into the book, you'd almost gotten over by carrying it. Whereas if it had been part of the, sorry, alcohol is kicking in. My tongue is getting if she'd mentioned it earlier on, I would have been annoyed. But because he didn't say anything and he didn't do anything direct about it for so long, I was okay with it. Whereas generally it's a thing for me.
Yeah,
because
I did laugh
takes
when
you
it-
through the process.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it gives you time.
I did laugh when his character says, should I have told you earlier and would it have made a difference? And she's like, yes. And he's like, oh, whoops.
Yeah.
Like his reaction of, oh,
Yeah.
She's like, you would have only had to wait like a couple of days. And he's like, oh shit, I screwed myself, didn't I?
But I feel like he did it for us. He did it so we could fall in love with them to be together and not so much for cinnamon. Meanwhile, cheers to dragons for sex lovers. Yes, thank you very much.
You had to join me right at the start. Sorry, she's being very annoying. I probably needs food. Do you need food? You can have food in a minute.
Not much to add then.
It's not exactly a deep story.
No,
know,
it's
a long one.
not deep or long.
Actually, that's what.
That's what was good about it.
I'm gonna leave that right alone. I have not had enough
Well,
alcohol to
it was,
make
but
that
it
joke.
wasn't.
I mean, that's where the insta love is kind of useful, is because it is only a short story.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I give it a bit of slack for that.
I feel like
definitely
it was a good balance. Sorry.
Yeah. We couldn't have had like our novella sort of almost length book and had non-insta love. Like there just wouldn't have been enough time
Yeah.
to build that
Unless you're
up.
setting it up as like a friends to lovers or something like that, where there's already an
Established relationship.
Yeah, if it's not already an established relationship,
Yeah.
kind of like if they had just tried to not make it sort of insta love and kind of tried to make it that they were in love so quickly, it wouldn't have been as smooth a transition word for it.
No, I think it worked very well for what it was. It was exactly, I think Kim said it before, it was what it said on the box, and I loved it for that.
Yes. It was definitely as per description. I'm not upset about anything that I read. Like it was very just an enjoyable little story. I'll probably read the next one. Maybe
Oh.
I don't know.
There's also a 1.5 which is a Christmas version and a 2.5 which looks like it's a Halloween one.
I will say props to the author for being like sex positive with it, but also like in the like a lot of these sort of fantasy books tend to get into the tropes that are a bit squicky and things on those lines, and she did a really good job of like navigating all of that and still managed to make it feel like it was this kind of fantasy world. So I think I said that right. God damn, why did I drink this drink so fast?
Like
It's
there
a
was a
small
couple
drink,
of,
just lots of alcohol.
As drunk.
there was a couple of trigger warnings at the beginning, and I was a bit like, I don't know.
Yeah, right. I was like,
and it was a lot better. Like the thing that I was concerned about was there was a trigger warning about like dubious consent, and I was like, and I was there, and I get why that trigger warning was there, but it wasn't as bad as I was expecting, especially having read some of similar books in this kind of genre.
Yeah.
I was like not bothered by it in the way that it was written.
It was a trigger warning that was covering all bases very thoroughly.
Like and they sort of said, Dubcon, I was expecting it to be a lot more dubious. Like, yes, it was dubious consent, but it was not as bad as I was expecting it to be for this kind of book. Which I mean, I really shouldn't have expected it to be that bad because it is a comedy style book. Like,
It's hard to tell though sometimes.
It is. Yeah.
And the fact that I feel that you weren't warned by someone else, it was in the front of the book, that I'm less worried about it if it's in the front of the book and it's not someone else's notes.
Yeah.
So
I really like it when they do
should
that
be
in
right.
romances now. They do either in the description or in the beginning of the book, it's becoming more common to have like a little bit of a disclaimer like that. And I think it's so good just so that anybody who's super triggered. For me, most of the time, most triggers, I just need to know it's there and then I'm usually okay. Or at the very least, I can make an informed decision. But for people who are seriously triggered, it's so good to have that kind of thing there. Props to them.
Yeah, it's nice to just know that that's like the description is there for you if you need it, but also like it's not like it gives you all the warnings without just in case for people who might be more sensitive towards things rather than others, without being like too sort of like, I don't know how to describe it, but you know what I mean.
Too spoilery.
Yes. Like it's good that it's there so that people who may be more sensitive know that it might be in the book and might affect them, but it's not so sort of explicit that you're like, oh, well, that's obviously going to happen and this is going to happen. Like,
I feel like more genres could embrace this. I feel like it works very well in romance because you're sort of expecting certain things to happen. So I understand why romance is the area where it has become like a norm thing. But I must admit, I do wish more genres would sort of embrace the concept of, you know, a few trigger warnings at the beginning don't necessarily have to spoil, but might warn people who might have problems. The problem is they're not going to put the trigger warnings I need, which is spiders.
But he made her see spiders.
They weren't real spiders though.
Not real spiders.
Sometimes they're spider children, and you've thought the book was going to be good for you, but they're spider children, and I don't need that in my life.
What are you talking about that has spider children?
Adrian Tchaikovsky has a lot to answer for.
Right.
It is true.
Anyway, sorry, alcohol. Are we done?
Oh,
Are we good?
yeah, I was just about to say that. Are we done? I think we're done.
I think we might be done.
Yep.
All right. We haven't picked the next one, so
No.
check back. We'll be doing more smart reads for the win.
Book 2. We know
Who
G's
knows?
already read it.
Hey, that's a good idea. We could vote. We could nominate the book 2 for next time. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.
Bye.